welcome to Focus. I'm Marilynn Preston. Chicago's long been known around the country as a great theater town. Well, now we're becoming known around the world as a great theater town, thanks to the International Theater Festival of Chicago. It began here in 1986, was repeated a second time in '88, and soon to launch itself a third time, thanks in large part to the spirit, the dedication, and the vision of our guest today, Bernie Sahlins. The 1990 International Theater Festival of Chicago will open here May 23rd, run through July 1st. It includes 16 productions, 13 theater companies, and it includes a production of the Cabaret Theater, a production of a play called Secher, which we'll hear more about in a minute. But first, let's take a look at a video prepared by the Theater Festival all about itself.
Is all our company here?
In May 1990, over 200 foreign theater artists will arrive in Chicago from France, Canada, Lithuania, Great Britain, Hungary, West Germany, Israel, Mexico, and Italy. They will be joined by 3 local companies. 42 days and nights, 16 plays, the most exciting theater the world has to offer. Come to the festival. From all over America, from all over the world, more than 150 journalists will be covering the International Theater Festival of Chicago, and more than 60,000 theatergoers will attend.
I'm a theater junkie, and the Theater Festival is an opportunity to see a lot of different productions from a lot of different cultures, all in a very short period of time.
Once more into the breach, dear friend! Once more!
Not in years has a company been so highly acclaimed by Britain and the world as Kenneth Branagh's Renaissance Theater Company.
We'll be bringing two plays, King Lear and Midsummer Night's Dream. Richard Breyer's...
Personally invited by Mayor Daley to open the festival, the Renaissance is renowned for its skill, energy, and clarity of production.
Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that.
Every time we have a good English-speaking English company coming here to do Shakespeare, it's an event, but this is an event of a different kind. Quite wonderful, I think.
This festival presents a great number of works and companies never seen in America. From West Germany, the award-winning Theater an der Ruhr makes its American debut with 2 works. Bertolt Brecht's classic comic story of Mac the Knife and the compelling music of Kurt Weill combine in a vivid new staging of Threepenny Opera. And in an original, powerful retelling of the Faust legend, the Croatian Faust, the stage explodes with dramatic energy.
I'm very glad that one of the most innovative theaters, the Theater an der Ruhr, is invited here to Chicago.
Katona József Theater, the Hungarian company that the New York Times said ranks with the world's best, also makes its American debut with a great comedy, The Government Inspector. According to one London critic, I was literally helpless with laughter. The comic acting is of the highest order. American playwright Arthur Miller called the State Theater of Lithuania one of the great theater companies of the world. Audiences thrilled to their magnificent Uncle Vanya at the 1988 festival. Now they return with The Square. Banned from presentation for 2 years, it is a brilliant story of an individual taking on an entire repressive society.
If you go to see a play in San Francisco or a play in Atlanta or a play in Denver, you're most unlikely to see 4 different styles, whereas in Europe or in Mexico or in Israel, you will see radically different styles.
At festival after festival throughout Europe, the Cabaret Theater of Israel has triumphed with their repertoire of classical and contemporary plays. They come to Chicago with a gripping love story by Nobel Prize winner S.Y. Agnon entitled Secher. We welcome this work's American debut. Often the theater presents a fantasy land for all ages, and the stage becomes a magical place where anything is possible. 3 of the companies in the 1990 festival conjure up such drama. From France, Le Cirque Imaginaire, a 2-person circus for the theater. A charming, funny show for all ages, whimsical and alive with phenomenal costumes and effects, and the greatest, smallest show on earth. Another kind of magic from Canada, a 6-hour wonder called The Dragon's Trilogy, a work of such marvelous invention that artistic director Robert Lepage has been hailed as the new Peter Brook. And for our third feat of legerdemain, 2 companies, one Italian, the other Canadian, together devised a strikingly visual work without words. Terra Promessa is a charming story of the history of the world that will linger in your mind always. And to round out the list of foreign attractions, the Theater of the University of Veracruz in Mexico brings a colorful spectacle blazing with passion and alive with the music, the action, and the characters of La Loteria, Cierran las Puertas.
With this participation of the Mexican play and the Mexican group in this International Theater Festival of Chicago, it becomes not only more international, but the whole idea of having a plural demonstration of culture, it's really achieved.
The festival once more salutes the work of our Chicago theaters by sponsoring 3 of them as festival participants. Northlight Theater, presenting the South African Born in the RSA, Court Theater, with a double bill of A Chorus of Disapproval and The Beggar's Opera, and Latino Chicago in a play called Puffin, all bring Chicago's theatrical vitality to festival audiences. And throughout the 6-week festival, local artists will workshop with their foreign counterparts. The general public will attend seminars, films, and lunchtime discussions. And children of all ages and neighborhoods will participate in festival activities. In fact, the festival has adopted 2 public schools as full festival partners for a total theater immersion.
One of the things that's been very attractive to Ameritech about the International Theater Festival is the educational component. The theater festival applies and is enjoyed by people not only that go to the theaters where the presentations are made, but also because it goes out and reaches into the community and into the schools and makes theater come alive throughout the city.
What I had to start thinking about was what they give to theater and what every audience has to bring with them before theater is meaningful. Students in here right now are working on locating the countries that the festival is coming from, drawing maps of those countries, finding out facts about them, preparing a guide to Phil Sheridan School and a guide to the city of Chicago so that visitors will know about us. They're working on computers to generate some of this. They're going to use a video camera to prepare a video. They're writing a script themselves. And because of the theater festival, your mind is stimulated, your imagination is stimulated, your creative abilities are stimulated.
If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended.
That you have but slumbered here, while these visions...
Festival 90 is coming to Chicago. 42 days and nights of the most exciting theater the world has to offer. Come to the festival. See the plays. Join in the special events. May 23rd through July 1st, the International Theater Festival of Chicago. Have the adventure of a lifetime.
42 days and nights of theater around the world. It's really a monumental undertaking. Please welcome our guest today, producer, director Bernie Sahlins. For many years, it was the guiding light of Second City and all of its many stars and spin-offs. And with his wife, Jane Nichols Sahlins, is one of the co-founders of the International Theater Festival. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're going to get into the specifics of some plays, particularly the one from Israel, but I want to just go back to the beginning and ask you, whose idea was this?
Well, I had for a long time felt that to present the world's best works was less expensive than mounting plays. And one day in a restaurant on a napkin, we figured out how to do it. And the great thing about Chicago is a year and a half later, we did it.
And figuring out how to do it meant what
how
was
much
the
it would cost, where it would appear, how one would get the money. And of course, if we'd really known, I don't think we would have done it, but we managed.
And this will be the third go-round for you. You do it once every 2 years. Has it gotten easier, harder?
Well, it's gotten easier in some ways. The first audiences that we had, we said festival. They said, oh yeah, but they didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was. they didn't realize the plays are here for 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, that you go to see a lot of them. You don't wait for the critics and your friends. Along about 10 days into, they really got it. Oh, yeah, well, we saw you with this one, and now we're going to see another one. And that kind of audience has been growing, and so that we have now, 3 weeks away from the festival, sold 72% of our goal. So that part is easier. What is more difficult is really finding the good things to bring, because there are many things in the world that are quite adequate, that are well done, well directed, but we have that in Chicago. You have to find things that contribute to our own knowledge, that help our own artists, that represent something different. And
how do you keep up with what's out there? Do you have scouts out there looking for you?
Well,
or how do you keep
Jane and I and our associate director, Pam Marsden, travel and try to see, in most cases, 95% of the cases, have seen everything that we bring. It's one, and even a video doesn't really tell you. You have to be there. And one thing that's helpful is there are other festivals in the world. The United States does not have many. Because one reason is it's more difficult to get on a plane than get in a truck and go to a neighboring country. But that helps, because then you can see 12 or 15 works in a week or two.
So you've been actively looking for these productions really since your festival closed
Oh,
last year?
yes, we're already looking for 92, and we've got 2 or 3 things that we're very anxious to bring.
How many miles did you put in scouting this time?
Well, we figured that out for our brochure. We put in 48,000 miles.
It's good for the frequent flyer, I suppose.
Well, American Airlines is one of our sponsors, and it's been very helpful, along with Ameritech, who is our principal festival sponsor, and makes the phoning easier.
Well, first of all, that many thousands of miles represents how many productions did you see before you pared down to the ones you chose?
I would say we said at least 3 times, 4 times as many as we brought. And even then, it was because we knew that those were the ones we wanted to see. We could have seen 10 times or 12 times. But as I say, most of them are pretty good. But one of the things about Chicago tradition is that it grows out of the naturalistic and realistic theater.
Yeah.
And much of the work in the world, and the work that's interesting us and our audiences, is poetic and visual, and really represents a different departure, a different way of looking at theater. So we bring that, and our own theater artists and our audiences are really learning something, and happy about it.
The audience is more interested in new versions of the classics, or are they eager to see just raw new work?
There are star plays. And, for example, Threepenny Opera is an enormous seller. Of course, Kenneth Branagh is practically sold out now. But, you know, one interesting thing about our audiences, this last festival, we did the English Shakespeare Company's marathon. We did 7 plays on a weekend, the whole Wars of the Roses cycle. That was the first thing to sell. This festival, we're doing a wonderful company from Canada, Theatre Repair, in a 6-hour trilogy.
Dragons Trilogy.
Dragons Trilogy. They've sold out. Yeah. So that our audiences really want to immerse themselves in theater.
They want the full value.
It's quite wonderful.
What is Dragons Trilogy about?
Dragons Trilogy is in English, French, and Chinese.
That old combination.
It's a story about 2 women and 70 years of Canadian history going from Chinatown to Chinatown. It's indescribably beautiful. Very little script, a lot of visual excitement. And in between, we serve a Chinese meal. In between the...
Was that part of the original production, or that's a Sahlins
No, that's our
innovation?
edition.
That's good. I know one of the productions we're particularly interested in is what the Camera Theater of Tel Aviv is doing.
Yes, that's one of the world's great theaters, and it's very little known in America, although in Europe they're very well known. They've just come back from Moscow, where they did very, very well. They've played Britain and...
they do what, new works or mixed?
Everything. They did Les Miserables. It's supposed to be one of the best productions of Les Miserables ever done.
Oh.
They do original works, they do Brecht, and we're bringing them in an original work, an adaptation by them of S.Y. Agnon, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, one of his novels, which was just published in English, by the way. And
this is called Shira.
Shira. It's quite a remarkable work. It's quite a remarkable theater. I remember when we went to see the mayor of Tel Aviv, who was a very big supporter of the theater. He's on their board. He's very interested in their work. Told us about how when Harold Washington came to visit him, Washington said, how many people work in this building? So about 30%.
Oh.
And Washington said, well, that's better than ours. Ours is 20%. But it's a very lively theater scene.
Explain how you handle the language situation. For instance, Shira is performed in Hebrew.
Yes.
And
well, that's a very important question. First of all, we never pick a work that doesn't have very, very strong visual elements, so that even if you don't speak the language, you can get it. But we also, in cases like this, we don't do it for the British, even though it's a different language. We provide earphones for the entire audience, and we provide translation. And we have, over the years, experimented and found what to us is the ideal system. We use one voice, whether it's man, woman, and that voice does not act in your ear. Because one of the off-putting things about translations, you have the actor on stage doing something big, then this voice in the ear gets carried away. It's like, I love you.
Be competing, right?
Yes, they're competing. So we train our translators just to do it in absolute monotone so that it becomes exactly like the subtitle in a foreign film. And then we encourage our audience to just use one earpiece in one ear and keep the other ear trained to the stage. So in a matter of no time, you become very accustomed to it. This voice is translating for you.
In neutral tones.
In neutral tones, and you're involved in the acting and the theater, and it's almost as if you spoke the language. It works very, very well.
And one of the productions that won't need that, I suppose, is Le Cirque Imaginaire.
Le Cirque Imaginaire has no language, no. And neither does Terra Promessa. That's the work that was done by this Canadian company met this Italian company at a festival. They got along so well they decided to do a work, but they didn't speak each other's language. So the result is we are blessed with a non-verbal play by the two of them together.
And it's about the environment?
It's about the history of the world.
History of the world.
Yes, it's from the creation to the latest golf player. It's very funny. It's very beautiful. It's won a lot of prizes.
Have you seen those kinds of relationships develop between companies that you've brought together?
Well, we are a little different than most festivals. Most of our theaters that come here spend at least a week and some 2 weeks, whereas at other festivals they're in and out in 2 days or 3 days. And we encourage, first of all, we require that they all give workshops for our local theater artists. We have a local bar where they all meet, and we encourage that kind of reciprocity, and it works. There have been Chicagoans, as a result of the festival, have worked in foreign countries. There are long friendships done, and the work is affected. One of my favorite memories is of Mike Alfreds, who was director of the National Theater's Cherry Orchard, holding a workshop for 75 young directors. And to this day, this was 4 years ago, to this day they're passing out notes, their work is affected, and that's really what a festival does, is it leaves something behind.
And are there also conflicts among artists? I mean, you've got different nations represented. It's not like they don't pick on each other.
No, the world of theater is non-political, and as a matter of fact, it's a healing force. It brings people together. The last Israeli company we had, the Haifa Theater, was a mixed company of Arabs and Jews, and everybody got along wonderfully. It was quite a wonderful experience.
One of the most political entries, I suppose, in terms of nation states would have to be the State Theater of Lithuania. They were here a couple of years ago doing Uncle Vanya, and you brought them back to do...
Yes, they're doing a play. It was interesting. We were in Lithuania a couple of years ago, and we asked to see a play we had heard about called The Square. And they said, we're not allowed to do that. It's too political, because what it's really about is a prisoner of the state who gets out of prison, but then is still in prison because the state's a prison. But it's beautiful. It's very visual. It's very gorgeous. Well, that morning we were guests of the Minister of Culture, and in a weak moment, I saw it was a weak moment, I said, may we see the square? And he said, yes. Next day at 12 o'clock, they put the square out in the theater, and the theater was filled. The word had gotten out overnight. It's a fantastic work, and now that the glasnost and perestroika, even though there seems to be
little conflict there,
conflict,
little
it
conflict
has occurred, it's allowed out. And they're bringing 2 works. They're also bringing another one. To show you how visual it is. This is a 3-hour work by a man named Aitmatov, who's translated into English. It's almost a science fiction work. It's called The Day That Lasts 100 Years. It has 30 pages of text for those 3 hours of theater, so you can see how visual it is. It's almost all pictures.
And it takes place in the future?
No, it's an interesting story. It's a story of a sort of primitive Russian people in Central Asia whose leader dies, and they are making their way to their ancestral burial ground. Meanwhile, rockets are going off, and there are people circling in space looking for intelligent life. So you have the contrast, these people going through modern-day Russia, and a tremendous visual, and these people up there looking for intelligent life in some futuristic way. It's quite a wonderful story.
And during the time that you're negotiating with the State Theatre of Lithuania, could you feel their excitement at Perestroika?
Well, we brought them here for the last festival, and they were beside themselves because we billed them as Lithuania. This is the first time that they had not been billed as Russians. And they were excited as could be, yes. But as I say, they're not political. They are a theater, and all they want to do is their work.
As you toured around and you sampled theater in so many different countries and places, do you notice trends? Are there themes that seem to spontaneously be generated in different parts of the world?
Well, as I say, I think the days of naturalism, of realism, of kitchen sink drama, of this strong, realistic domestic drama are, if not numbered, at least in abeyance at this point. And that what we're really seeing is an exploration, and perhaps the film had something to do with it, perhaps, an exploration of visual transformations. The German theater that we're bringing with its marvelous 3-penny opera and a great work called Grecian Faust, which I must tell you about, is a relatively poor theater. They get most of their money touring. They're in a small town like Gary in Germany. And yet their invention, what they do with these limited means, the lighting, the set design, the costuming, the way they use the stage is something all of us in theater could learn from, and it's very, very exciting.
It's so interesting as you talk about this, and there's a sparkle in your eye. What's amazing is that you've seen so much theater. You've been in theater all of your life. You've created theater, and yet you're obviously still stimulated and surprised.
Well, every once in a while you see something that tells you why you're in this business. Most of it, I must admit, is pretty pedestrian. But when you see something like that, you say, oh yes, now I know why I'm in the theater. I'll never forget Richard Christensen, who was the entertainment editor of the Tribune, was in London when we were there, and I learned from him because we went to the National Theatre together, and he is all excited. I'm going to see a play. Now, this is a man who sees 200 plays a year.
Yeah,
but he's going to see a play.
It's
very exciting.
I know one of the things that we all find exciting is the local involvement with this, the groups, and that you've involved a couple of schools.
Yeah, as I say, what it leaves behind is what's more important than what you present. It leaves behind in the work of our own artists. It leaves behind in the minds of future theater audiences. What we decided to do as far as the school kids are concerned is, since we have limited resources, we decided to focus on 2 schools, and we picked 2 inner city schools. We started way back last January, and we talked to the teachers, and they have the kids reading the plays. They have them, as you saw in the film, they're identifying all the countries. They're going to welcome the visiting artists. They're going to attend the plays. They're studying the plays. And for them, it's not theater with a capital T. It's just an activity, you see. And it becomes part of their lives, and it becomes something not mysterious or unavailable. It's a terrific program. I'm very excited about it.
And have they targeted certain plays, or they're across the board?
They've targeted Midsummer Night's Dream as the one they're interested in. And you heard them. We left out a little bit of the film at the end where they're actually taking turns reading from Midsummer Night's Dream, and some of it, and they obviously are beginning to understand that language.
That's exciting. Now, Midsummer Night's Dream will open the festival, and that is the Renaissance Theater.
They call it the Renaissance. You and I call it the Renaissance.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say Renaissance. But this is Kenneth Branagh's group,
Yes,
and of course he's so hot lately after Henry V.
Yeah, well, when we hired him, he did tell us. We met him in London with his producer, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we've made this little film. So that's nice. Now, would you like to come to Chicago?"
Really? Oh,
and
good timing.
Yes, it was a very fortunate stroke of luck.
And
they're almost sold out right now. Yeah.
So, and they're doing 2 plays.
They're doing King Lear and Midsummer, and they're staying 2 weeks, 1 week for each.
And
some afternoons and evenings, they're doing one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And as I say, those are the ones that sold out first. People want to immerse themselves. I think it started with Nicholas Nickleby and that whole thing.
That's right, 8 hours.
Yes.
Your wife Jane was producer.
Yes, she brought that.
Do you attract a big crowd from? It's not just from Chicago. You get people from around the country coming to see it?
About 11 or 12% of our audience comes from outside of Chicago, and we have had calls from all of the states. We've had calls from Alaska. We've had calls from. We had a call from a congressman's office in Washington the other days. One of my constituents, he was in Alabama, he wants to come see this Kenneth Branagh. How do we go about doing that? Well, we told him, and the lady called up and became an ambassador. That she made a contribution as well as buying tickets.
What's the reaction of the groups to Chicago? Do they like our city?
They love Chicago. Most of them in their heads have this vision of this slum city with gangsters shooting you down on every street corner. They fly in over the lake. Oh, there's a lake, and then they see the downtown, and then they see how easy it is to get around, and they have a wonderful welcome, and we take very good care of them, and they adore Chicago. In fact, the word all over is Chicago's the festival to come to. It helps make our job easier.
I believe that, and you've already started on
92,
2 years from now.
yes.
So there will be forever this theater festival.
Well, I don't know about forever, but as long as it's fun, we'll do it.
And the fundraising gets easier as you go on?
The climate for fundraising is not so great, but we're doing okay.
Okay, good. Well, now that you're excited about this, let me tell you where you can call for tickets. It's locally is area code 312-644-FEST.
Right.
And give us your 800 number.
It's 1-800-545-FEST.
Wonderful. Well, guest today has been Bernie Sahlins with his wife, Jane Nichols Sahlins, is co-founder of the International Theater Festival of Chicago. We hope that you'll come around to it. It's an extraordinary experience. Any of the things you can sample, you'll enjoy. Thank you, and shalom.
This is to make an ass of me, to frighten me if they could, but I will not stir from this place, do what they can. I will walk up and down here, and I will sing that they shall hear I am not afraid. The usual cock so black, of you with orange tawny bill, the throstle with his note so true, the wren with little quill.
What angel wakes me from my flowery bed?